Welcome back to ClickFunnels Quick Start Blueprint. This is Dan Havey with CFninjaHacks, and today we're going to start looking at the elements. But what I want to go over first is something that I left off at the end of the last section's video that I did, and that's where we were talking about putting in the data title. So here on this top section here, the header section as I'm calling it, I put in a data title of header section. So just to refresh you, you come in here, you click on the hashtag, and you put in header and section. And again, when I call something, when I'm naming a section, I usually leave the word section on there, row, I leave the word row on there, headline, image, whatever. And so now I'm just saying that this is our header section, and make sure you always click on update after you change what the data title is. And then I came into the row, and I did the same thing. I called it the header row, and you're going to see here is when you call something from now on, it's always up here at the top. So I put in that data title will show here at the top. If I do the section, I click on this here, the data title will be here at the top. But also, you're going to see it when you come into your rows. So the section, we called that header section, and then you're going to see this right here, and then you're going to see the two rows I named below it. So I gave this row a data title of header row and another one here of headline row. And then unless I'm really working with a column and I need to give it a data title, generally speaking, I don't give them any titles, but with the elements, a lot of times I will. So again, here it says header section, and then first column, header image. Header section, second column, in this case here, we have nothing in here right now. And then we got down here, header section, first column, main headline. So I really think even if you're not using the data titles to target something for the purpose of CSS or JavaScript, I still think it's a really good idea to get in the habit of giving all of your sections and rows the data title, just because it's so much easier to go through here then, and you have a whole bunch of items and you're scrolling along and each one is section, 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 and although you can move your mouse around and it will highlight everything over here with a blue, I still think it's a lot easier to find stuff when you give at least the sections and the rows data titles so that you can find them a little bit more easily. So now that we talked about that, now let's jump into our elements. And so let's say here, add a new element. And what I want to do is break it down by section. So we got text, media, form, content, countdown, and miscellaneous as we scroll down the page here. And I'm going to see, I won't know until I get to the bottom here if I'll be able to put all of each of these into one video, or if it'll take 2 or 3 to break it up and make it seem to be a little bit more logical. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to grab a hold of a headline element. So I'll just click on it because I'd already clicked in here to turn it on. And so now we're just going to go into the settings, and I will just show you a couple things first off. So the animation is the same, so we're not going to go over that. We went over that in the last setting, in the last sections video, so that would be sections video number 3, so check it out there. And then again, the same thing with the hashtags. We already covered that in the last video, as well as the, what am I thinking here, as well as the mobile and the desktop, the hiding and everything else, and deleting it, and you know how to do that. And we already went through how to clone it and all that. So basically we're going to stick to the settings for this. So now let's come in here and take a look at our headline. We can click on the settings, but before we do that, let's click on the element and see what comes up here in the blue. So let's, right now, everything in here has been bolded. I think especially with the headline element, it comes in as bold. And so this is all bold. We can turn the bold off if we choose. But let's just do this. Let's make a couple of these words bold, just like that. And then the rest of them we will make not bold, so we will turn that off, and we'll show you why in a second. And then we can also make headline action here. Let's make that italicized. And then let's just make a couple of these underlined. And we can even do a strike through on this one here. So you see all the different things you can do. You can take the entirety of the text and make it to the left, to the center, or to the right. And then we can also turn this into a hyperlink. So I will highlight it all. I will click on this, and we can take out the hashtag, and we can put in https:// wherever you want them to go. I will just say google.com. And if you ever want to break the link, you just click here. That will break the link. We can tell it we want it to either open in the existing window or open in a new window. So if you don't click that, it'll be the existing window. If you do click it and it turns white like that, it will be an external or a new window. And then if we want, we can change the font color. Now, this font color right there was set in the settings. We'll go back to that in a second. But we can make this any color we want. And what it'll do then is it'll change the text color here to whatever we set this at. So let's just set it back to a bluish color. And then we can always click here to close out just the linking element here, the hypertext element, and it'll take us back to this. Now, we can click on this gear to get into the settings, or we could come back down here and get the orange box to come up, and we could go to our settings. So in the side of the settings, we can, of course, do our margin at the top. We can pick a font family. So let's say we want to go with Lato or Lato, however they say that. And or let's say, as we have said before, we got like hundreds of Google fonts. So let's just put that one in there. But now think about it this way. So now you got this in here. And as I said over here, and I'll look at the typography again in a second, once you put in the typography over in the settings, you can't get it back out. Well, here you can. So here we can just click on that and we can take it back out. So now let's go over to our typography, and here's our typography. And so here's where we can set the default link color. And then of course, as you saw, you can change it up here. Here you can change your default text color. But as you saw, when we go into a section, you can also change your text color here. You can go into a row and you can change your text color here. And let me see if we can do that in a column. Yep, you can change your text color there. And then, of course, each individual element that has text in it, you can also change your text color. So there's all kinds of different places you can change your text color. But let's go back into our typography. And so for our typography, we hadn't set anything earlier. So let's say we want to do our content font, and let's just make it some crazy stuff so that we can really see what we're looking at here. So we'll make it this one here, Alex Brush. And then we'll make our headline font. Let's make it this really big fat font here. So we have these two set as our default fonts. So we can come into this element now, and it turned this now to Alex Brush, because down here at the bottom we have our typography set to content font. If we change that to headline font, there we go. Now it changed it to the other one. Even though it didn't seem to change it there, it did change it up here. But we can also now come in and let's change this to something else. Let's change it to rock salt. Now it went to rock salt, and we can click the X and it turned it back to whatever our headline font was. And now we can go with our content font. But you see, it didn't change here. It only changed it down here at the bottom, but it did not change what it says right there. Okay, so we got that. That's all of our fonts, and we talked a little bit about font colors. But why don't we just stick right now with the font color? But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to come in here. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to break this hyperlink, and I'm going to come back in because, again, it took out all of the stuff I had in there. So we're going to make that bold, but that's not working out so good. So let's go in here. Oops, there's the headline row. We don't want that. Let's come in here and let's make this more of a normal font, because not every font is going to act the same. As you saw there, that was getting kind of weird the way that was. So we'll just leave this here. So we got large call, and we're going to make that blue. We're going to make that bold. And in a second, you will see why. Because what we're going to do is we're going to say now the text color, let's just make this yellow just for illustrative purposes. You see it turned it all yellow, but now the bold color, let's click on this, and now we just turned that red. So because we set this as bold, that will now be red, and all the rest of it will be yellow. Now we're going to come back up, and we're going to look at our font size, and of course you can just pull your thing around and change the font size. You can always type in a number if you would like. That's getting a little big. And so we can just change our font size around. Now let's say we want to, let's make this really small just for contrast purposes. Now let's say we want to set a mobile font size. And again, I got like an 1.5 hour long video on how to do all of your mobile stuff. And I'm not really sure where it is. Account details, is that where it is? Nope, that's not it. Choose funnel editor. No, I don't think that's it. Page editor, mobile optimization right here. So I got, in fact, 2 different videos there on how to do that. But now let's go into our mobile, and let's say we want to make this font 72 pixels. So that on mobile now, it'll be 72 pixels, but you see it didn't affect it here. But if we come over and click on our mobile thing here, now boom, we get that huge font. So that's how you set that. But again, watch the mobile editing video to find out much more about that, and we will load this up. But now what you see, now it says headline font here because I closed this out and I came back in. So now it's saying headline font there like I thought it was supposed to do. So let's try this. We'll go out, and then we will come back in. And now it says it's back to Lato. So, all right, so this is being a little bit buggy here. But as long as you get the font on your page that you want, that's all that really matters. Okay, so now we have this text on our screen, and just about every element you can give it some sort of a background color. So in this case here, we can give this headline a background color around it. And let's say we want to put an icon on this. We will have to go to the next page to do the icon, but let's make the icon kind of a blackish color to stand out against the blue. And then we can also decide on a border color here, and let's make that a red color as well. And then opacity, we can do a light fade. Did it change it? Half fade. Okay, and then a heavy fade. And you see it just kind of got faded out. Frankly, I've never once used that on any project. So now let's go to our advanced. We can change our line height. And you see it gets a little bit taller there, and we can go down to 0.7. So we can do that. Now, of course, if you only got one line of text, a lot of times, especially if you don't have a background, you're not even going to notice that. We can do text transform. We can do all uppercase, all lowercase, or we can capitalize just the first letter. So we'll leave it there. Normal spacing, we can make it closer together, or we can spread it further apart. Let's just make it normal, so that'd be 0. And let me see, we did letter spacing. Text shadows, we have a slight shadow here. Again, with text shadows, I normally would do that with CSS, but this will do for now. We can do 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns, or 4 columns. And let's put it back to 1 column because it's not really showing much of what we want to see here. So let's do this. Let's just highlight this whole thing. We will copy this, and we will paste this in a few times. And what it should do, let me pull this over even. Now let's go back into this element. What it'll do is break it up into multiple columns. So here we have, so now we have 2 different columns, and let's come back into our text now, because what we want to do is left justify it. So now we have it in 2 columns, so more like a newspaper kind of thing or magazine would be. And then we can even go 3 or 4 columns, and it can line it up like that. And I've seen this done very effectively a couple of times, but not many people really know it's in here, and so not many people use it. So now we can put an icon in front of this, and of course we can pick any icon we want. So let's just say we want to find some arrow icons, and we can put that in there, and then let's just say we just want an up arrow. So that put the up arrow right there at the beginning of the line. And now let's go back to our settings. And because I had the icon color, I said to be black, and it's giving me that color. So let me try this again. So apparently what you have to do is after you set your icon, then come back in and set your color in order to get it to show up properly. That's not a big deal. So let's put some padding around our element here. It was kind of tight to the edges. And then we can do a border radius. Let's just do a 15 pixel radius. And we're going to do that on all edges. But you could do it. Let's just do it on the bottom. I'm not sure why you do that, but you could. Let's do all. Let's do it realistically here. Let's do a full border, and we want that border to be solid, but we could have it be dashed or dotted. Okay, we can't see it yet because I haven't put in a size. There we go. Let's put in 3 pixels. In fact, just so you can see it better, let's put in 10 pixels. And so that's dotted, and now dashed, and now solid. And we got a full border, but we could do top and bottom only as well. And that looks kind of funny with the radiuses on the corner. So let's get rid of the radiuses then. And then it's nice and straight and square. And then, of course, we can do a shadow like we were doing in the last couple of videos. We can do a drop shadow around the outside, or we could do an inner shadow, which, oh, okay, that's I kind of like the way that sets that off. That's not bad. And then let me see here. I think we hit on just about, do you want to save? Sure, I'll save it. That hits on just about everything that we have in here. So, okay, well, that is it then for the headline element. And now let's go in and let's put in a subheadline element, and we'll just click on that. So now our subheadline element came in, and it's that fancy text because it was set here to content font, but we can change that to headline font. Or again, we can come up here and pick any color or anything we want. We can change the margin, we can change the font size. So what you're going to see here is this setup is exactly the same as the setup for the headline. And why they have 2 different elements, there's only one reason why they have it, and I'll show you that in a minute. In fact, it didn't even used to exist, so when they originally built this, there was really no reason for it. Now we'll put in a paragraph element, and again, you see, came in as a content font, so we can change that, or we can change it to oxygen if we so choose. We can change the size. Everything else is exactly the same as the headline element. I don't believe there's a single bit of difference here. So then let's pop out of that. Now let's put in a quote first, because this quote thing is interesting in that I don't really understand why they put this element in. They just put it in just very recently. And so you have your text here and you get your curly quotes around the outside of it. And so you put in any text and it gives you a quote around it. And so let me see if there's anything else we can change in here. So we can, again, we got our font, we got our font size, color, background border, themes. Let's see here. Nope, no themes. And otherwise line height, etc., etc. So it's exactly the same as all the rest of the elements. It's just that it has these quotes around it. And my question is can't I put a quote here? Let's just check this here. Can I put a quote there? Okay, now what it did is it gave me a straight quote, but let me see. So straight up and down versus like the curly ones here. But let's say I change my... Let me see, I change the, so now, well, let me see here. Let's increase the size of this thing. So yeah, and there it gave me a curly quote, but it's kind of backwards. So let's see what happens if I come down here and put in a quote. So it gave me the same quote. Let's see if I delete this one out and put in a quote again. No, it's giving me the same direction. So there's got to be some reason why it's in here. I'm not really sure, and I frankly never seen anybody actually use it. It's something they put in realistically just in the last maybe the last couple of months is the first time I recall seeing it, and it's what now? It's July of 2021. And so now here we have the what was this here? The bullet list. And so let me see here. That's a bullet spacing. All right, font size. I was trying to make it bigger. So here we got our font size, and apparently it grabbed a hold of I think this was the content text. So let's go with something else. Let's just go with an open sans. And so let's take a look at the element. And again, it's the same as everything else. Left justify the whole thing. You can do hyperlinks in here as well. And then we'll come in, and so you got your padding, you got your, okay, so we do have some themes here. This is the first one where we have some themes, so you can pick out one of these if you like the way it looks. So let's just choose this one. So we got that. We can change this, round, square. All right, let's go with the green one. Okay, now let's go back in, and we can do our bullet spacing. So, okay, come on, slide up further on the screen here. So we got our spacing between them. We have the left margin. Okay. Let's see, do we want an icon list or an ordered list? So 1, 2, 3 versus, in this case here, some check marks. But we can change that. Of course, you can change your mobile. Text color, again, let's just play around with this. Bold color. Okay, so you can make the first part here bold, the rest of it not bold. Change the colors. And then we can make the icon color red. Okay, we got that. And now into advanced, we can say, okay, what do we want each of these icons to be? And as you see, they can be, everyone can be different. So we'll just randomly grab some icons here and see what we come up with. And so there you go. Each one of those can be a different icon. So I do believe we have hit on everything inside of the text elements, except for one thing that I want to show you. And this is important on why this one is a headline, this one is a subheadline, and this one is a paragraph. So I'm going to save the page. I know this all looks hideous right now, but we're just going to go in and take a look at the code really quick. Because up until probably a year or so ago, ClickFunnels didn't even have this function. So let me inspect this. And what I'm talking about is right here. So here is our headline wrapper. So as I said before, normally you have an outer wrapper on something, then you have the inner element, and then down here we have an icon signified by the eye. We have some bold text, and then we keep going along here, and there's a strike through text. See, some of this I originally put in there, and then we were messing around with it so much it got wiped out. Oh, I see here the strike through. There's actually nothing in between it. That's why it's not showing anything. And this I here, I think, should stand for italicized. But again, that got wiped out when we were moving everything around. But what I wanted to show you is this right here is the H1 tag. Now, according to how you should be doing SEO, this has always been the rule, is you only want one H1 tag on your page. So the main headline that you put on your page, you want to use the headline element. So main headline, you want to make it your H1 element right here. That's it. Everything else you want to make an H2 headline, because if we come down to the second element, that is an H2 headline. And in ClickFunnels, those are your only two choices. You got an H1 and you got an H2. Now you got the third one here, which is the paragraph, which when they made the H1 and the H2, I wish they would have made this one here. I wish they would have made this a P tag for a paragraph, but they didn't. So that way you could have H1s and H2s, well, a singular H1, several H2s, and then all the rest of it could be paragraphs, but they don't even have a P in here. But what I still would do that is I would make one H1, one headline element, several H2 elements, like at the beginning of certain sections, you want to put in your H2 elements, and then everything else, use the paragraph element, because again, the paragraph element can be styled exactly the same as the headline and the subheadline. So just get used to that as you're going forward now, that you use the headline element one time for the main headline. You use the subheadline as like the head of different sections. If you got a long form sales letter, you use the subheadline as the main line in each one of the sections of your sales letter. And then for everything else, you use the paragraph tag. That is, if you're at all concerned about SEO. If you're not concerned about SEO, just use the headline element all the time, and it doesn't really matter. So that was it for text. In the next video, we're going to get into the media section. As always, any questions, let me know.